So when I was in middle school, I knew these two girls who were best friends. Let's call them Jessica and Amanda. And I talked to them a lot, especially when we were in French class together. And one of them just made me a tiny bit uncomfortable. Like she would talk to me normally, obviously, but I didn't know how much of that was just her like trying to make fun of me. Like I don't know if she took me seriously as a person. And I know that's kind of a big accusation to make about someone, but back then that's just how I felt about her. So, one day, she was just making some fruity jokes about us being gay and dating and shit like that. And I totally wouldn't mind that today. In fact, I would encourage it because they're funny as hell. But back then, I was very confused and uncomfortable with my sexuality. So it just made me, kind of uneasy when I hadn't even come to terms with it. And I told her that. But she continued the jokes for like 2 days, I think, and I was not here for it. Like, I just told her, you know what? I'm done with you. Like, I'm ignoring you. And she was shocked. She was like, wait, are you actually mad at me? And I was like, yeah, I don't want to talk to you. And she was like, okay. And then she got all quiet and kind of left me alone for that day. And then for the rest of the week, we just really didn't talk. She sat near me in a lot of classes, so she would just turn around in her seat and apologize to me in class. And I would just be like, okay, whatever. And I would just kind of blow her off, which was so shitty of me, by the way. I feel so bad that I did that. But hey, you can't change the past, right? I am very sorry, though, and I still feel bad about it. But anyway, at the end of the week, last class on a Friday, we had French. And our teacher said she wasn't really going to teach that day because it was almost the weekend and she didn't really want to. So she put on a movie. The good old days. And she told us we can just hang out, talk amongst ourselves, but quietly. You know how teachers work. And I didn't really want to watch the movie that she had put on, so I went to go sit in the back to talk to one of my friends that was in the class. And then Jessica and Amanda also came to the back because they wanted to chat as well, and they sat to my right. My friend that I was talking to was sitting on my left, so I was just completely facing her with my back to Jessica and Amanda. But then Jessica, the girl who I was mad at, just kept calling my name and saying sorry and asking me questions. And I just kept turning around saying, okay, yeah, whatever. And basically giving her absolutely no energy whatsoever. I was like the perfect dry texter, but in real life. And honestly, I was getting annoyed at her because I just felt like she was embarrassing me in front of my friend that I was talking to because she kept apologizing. And I was like, okay, whatever. And I didn't really mean it, but she kept persisting. And I feel like there's only so many times someone can apologize to you before they start looking like the good guy and you start looking like a villain for not forgiving them. And I was getting irritated because I felt like that was what was happening. And I was starting to look like the bad guy to my friend. But I wasn't ready to forgive her for whatever reason. So I couldn't get myself to stop being petty. And that class was that. But eventually, Friday came to an end and I left class, went to my locker, got my shit, cheers to the weekend. And I got on the bus, sat my ass down, and just started listening to some music. But then a couple minutes later, all of a sudden, the other girl, Amanda, the friend of Jessica, who I was very mad at, got on my bus. And she wasn't on my bus. And for that matter, she wasn't on any bus. Because I knew that she got driven to school every day. So I was like, what the heck? Then she starts walking down the aisle of the bus, and it looks like she's making a beeline straight towards me. And I was sitting all the way in the back, because your girl was an OG, for real, gang signs. But no, deadass. I was like, what is going on? Why is she coming towards me? And why does she look so mad? So she gets to my seat, and she sits down next to me, and I look at her like super confused, like, girl, why are you on here? Like, we know you got like a BMW to go home in. But anyways, she's like, can you take your headphones out, please? And I was like, sure, I guess. And she's like, why aren't you talking to Jessica? And I was like, because she's making me uncomfortable and awkward. And she was like, yeah, but she said she's sorry. And she really is. And I was like, I don't know about all that. And listening to this, Amanda stood up. And she had the most serious expression I ever saw on her face. And she was a real jokester, I'll tell you that. And she was like, look, we hung out after school yesterday. And she beat herself up about it the whole time. Like she felt so bad. And that made me feel bad because I really care about her. Jessica's my best friend and I don't want her to be sad. Then, without giving me a chance to reply, she turned around and got off the bus. Safe to say, I forgave Jessica that weekend. And I really hope Jessica and Amanda are still best friends to this day. Because wow. That is some true friendship there.